Hello everybody, my name is Braden and I want to thank you so much for tuning into MotorBiscuit. This, as I'm sure you're probably aware, is a 2022 Chevrolet C8 Corvette. It's got 495 horsepower, it can do 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, and it's a mid-engine layout, making it the greatest Corvette ever made. We're going to take a pause for just a second here to let all the Corvette died with the C7 people leave the video, and then the rest of us can continue on with our lives. So yes, it's a fast car. I'm sure you guys know all the specs and all the ins and outs, and many journalists have done a much better job describing how it feels to drive one of these than I probably could on public roadways. And as much as I'd love to spend all day banging it off the rev limiter and carving these curvy canyon and mountain roads here in Idaho, this is a dealership car and I have to be nice to it. But we're going to get to the bottom of whether or not it's feasible to use one of these things every single day. After all, not everyone can afford to just throw around upwards of $80,000 for a weekend-only toy. Some folks may have the ability to purchase a C8 and don't really have anything else to fall back on. There are a few obstacles to daily driving a C8, of course. Things that immediately come to mind are fuel economy and cargo space. Diving in, let's take a look at the former. But before we do that, I want to say a special thank you to Peterson Auto Group here in Boise, Idaho for loaning us this beautiful Rapid Blue C8 Corvette. They have a handful of C8s for sale and a bunch of other really cool cars, so if you'd like to check out their inventory, there's a link in the description. Now, about that fuel economy. You might assume that this is pretty regular everyday routine if you were to drive a C8 Corvette every single day. Actually though, you'd be wrong. Yes, I know this is a 500 horsepower car with a V8. The C8 Corvette has Chevy's cylinder deactivation system, which is indicated by a little light here on the dash that either says V8 or V4. When you're in driving conditions like we are right now, where you're just cruising and you don't need all 8 cylinders to keep you moving along happily, it shuts off 4 of those cylinders and saves you fuel economy. Now, since I picked the car up from the dealership, I reset the gauge and I am averaging 19.5 miles per gallon right now. Sure, it's no hybrid, but would you anticipate almost 20 miles per gallon from city driving in a Corvette? Not even just a Corvette, a mid-engine sports car that could dominate the likes of cars that cost 3 times its price, and you can still just kind of cruise around town and get sort of 90s Honda fuel economy. Now, of course, that's lovely around town, but on the highway, it gets even better. The freeway, surprisingly, is one of the C8 Corvette's elements, really. But, of course, we're gonna have to safely get up to speed so I can show you what I mean. I was short shifting it, that's not even full throttle. This car is just stupid fun. But now that we're safely up to speed, just driving as normal, what I'm going to do is set our cruise control on 70 miles an hour. The C8 Corvette is surprisingly in its element on the freeway. Many owners of C8 Corvettes report regularly getting upwards of 30 miles per gallon on road trips thanks to the cylinder deactivation. As of right now, just cruising at 70 miles an hour in 8th gear, the C8 is pulling a 36.4 mile per gallon average. Now obviously that's going to drop way below that when you're on a road trip. One C8 owner who drove his car from the East Coast all the way to Huntington Beach, California reported getting over 32 miles per gallon on average for the entire trip, which is almost as good as my Ford Fiesta ST with a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder and 198 horsepower. This is a mid-engine 500 horsepower car with a V8, and it gets over 30 miles per gallon on the highway. So, if the question comes down to fuel economy and whether or not you can daily drive a C8 Corvette, the answer is an absolute and astonishing yes. So there you go. A C8 Corvette can get high teens to low 20s around town and upwards of 30 miles per gallon on the highway. When it comes to sports cars, that's pretty up there. If you're about to leave a comment about how 18 miles per gallon isn't good and your Hyundai Ioniq Blue gets 60 miles per gallon city, spare yourself the time. I said sports car. With fuel economy out of the way, it's time to address the 500 horsepower elephant in the middle of the chassis taking up what would be sweet cargo space. Immediately, you'd think any thought of bringing a reasonable supply of, well, anything would be impossible. Well, you might actually have me there because, as you're well aware, most of what would be cargo space is taken up by an engine and a transmission. Of course, the interior of a Corvette has never really been known for its cargo space either, but this one is exceptionally worse given its mid-engine layout and the firewall being right behind the seats. However, you might be a little bit surprised by just how much cargo you can fit inside of a C8 Corvette. Inside the C8's frunk, you can very easily and very comfortably fit no less than 4 pairs of New Balance shoes and detail spray for going to Cars and Coffee or muscle car night at your local favorite drive-in. Surprisingly, the cargo space in the rear behind the engine is pretty roomy. You can fit a good bit more cargo in a C8 Corvette than one might think. However, there are some things that don't fit. So let's say you're out thrifting with your C8 Corvette and you happen upon, I don't know, a kit to build a 1/3 scale model of the US's first nuclear capable surface-to-surface rocket, the Honest John. Oh man, this is gonna look so good next to my 8th scale V2. Yeah, let's go. Well, okay, yeah, perfect. All right, good. We're in there so far. Now we'll just have to go to the front. Beautiful. Yeah, baby. Big Honest John. It's gonna be so sick. I can't wait till, oh right, the New Balances. I guess I could, no, maybe it's, well, let's see. Okay, no. I know what to do. Here we go. I was just thinking of it all wrong. Take this. Yeah, good. Okay, we get this over here and we can just, well, it could maybe, does that, no. Okay, maybe this back there and together, this is perfect. Right, perfect. All right, good. Now, okay. No, that's not gonna, cause, well, okay, but that can't work because, sir, how much money would it cost you to transport this for me? No, I don't have that much. It's a Corvette, it's not Ferrari. Okay, so maybe people who build giant scale models of weapons of mass destruction shouldn't be looking into buying a C8 Corvette. But if you're just a normal person going to car shows, enjoying your time, and you want to bring a camp chair, there's more than enough space to do so. I'll show you. Yep. Okay, yeah. Yep. Well, okay, maybe it's, I could, no, it's not gonna fit in the front. Admittedly, there's a handful of cars that are a little bit better for transport than a C8. Now, we've covered fuel economy, which this does surprisingly well at, and cargo space, which this does surprisingly unwell at. But if you can live with the cargo space issue and you're not hauling around a lot of big items, daily driving a C8 is not a big deal. However, there is one more thing. When you drive a C8 Corvette, there's a little bit of a stigma. And incidentally, this stigma doesn't have anything to do with the Corvette brand. Let me explain. When people see the C8 Corvette, they see the body shape. You see the big intakes on the side. And even if you're not familiar with cars, you understand that that means sports car. You may not know that the engine is behind the passenger compartment, but you see the low body lines, just the general shape of the C8 doesn't say Corvette, it says Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren. And when you think Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, you think wealthy, stuck up, ungrateful. There are those people that see that body shape and think Ferrari, McLaren, Lamborghini, and get very, very excited. I've been driving this car for just about 36 hours now. I've run into plenty of people that didn't even know what it was and are shocked when I tell them it's a Corvette, but they just get excited about it in general because it's a cool car. You don't see them everywhere. There's, you know, way more C8s than there are Ferraris driving around because they're so much cheaper, but it's still not a car you just see, at least not around here. So it's an interesting enigma. I run into plenty of people who ask all the questions, and I'm happy to tell them. So every time somebody's like, hey, nice car, I immediately say, thanks, it's not mine. And then I explain to them what I'm doing, and that's fine, and they're just happy to get a chance to see it. However, there are people who aren't happy to get a chance to see it. Also, while I'm here, there are plenty of people, I don't know if you can see behind me very well, for some reason are just not afraid of getting right up on the back of this car. It's been happening a ton. I wish there was a way to record from the rear view camera so you could see how many people just love to tailgate this car. I don't know what it is, but they are really, really about that life. Back to what I was saying though, there's people that see this car and think money, think arrogant, and see me and see how young I look and immediately turn, we'll say, salty. Last night I was driving this through downtown Boise while we were filming some of the night footage that you guys have seen in this video. Hopefully it came out good enough for you guys to see it anyway. And I had the windows down, and this drunk lady walking down the street said, go back to California. We don't have to get into that too far. But the interesting thing is that I was born and raised here in Boise, Idaho. So that just was a really funny comment to me. And another one was two guys that I literally could reach out the window and touch, yet somehow really just didn't care or didn't realize that the window was down. Because one of them said, whoa, look, a C8 Corvette. And the other one said, yeah, it's probably his dad's car. There's a lot of interesting interactions that come with daily driving a C8 Corvette. And if you're not someone who interacts well with people, you might not do great daily driving. Everybody loves to get praised for their car, especially with a car like this. You know, you buy it because it's a cool car, whether or not you buy it because you want to flaunt it or you buy it because it's the best Corvette ever made. It has amazing handling, driving, it gets good fuel economy. No matter your motivation for purchasing it, everyone likes to hear praise that they did good and that they purchased the right car, and that people are excited to see their car. So I don't think anybody would have any problems with that. It's the backlash that I don't know that Corvette owners are ready to get the backlash that Ferrari owners get. Realistically, that's up for you to decide. But if it's within your budget to buy a C8 Corvette, I can't imagine not doing it. For the price point versus performance of these things, even with the markups, it's pretty dang difficult to beat. The only thing I'd say really compares in performance to price valuation would maybe be the Mustang GT500, which is a phenomenal car, but there's just something really, really special about driving a mid-engine car. The way it makes you feel. It's not about the reactions you get or the people around you. If you really are an automotive enthusiast and you can understand that this has a dual clutch automatic because it's just from a performance standpoint better than a manual transmission, and don't come after me in the comments, please. Every car I own has a manual transmission, and if there was a manual C8 Corvette, I would be driving one right now. But you have to keep a neutral mindset and understand that you will never shift as fast as this. And if you're taking a car on a racetrack, it's just virtually impossible to beat a dual clutch transmission. That's why this has one. That's why the GT500 has one. That's why the Porsche 911 GT3 RS isn't available with a manual. If it comes to hardcore performance, you go with a dual clutch automatic. That's just the reality we live in. Ultimately, when it boils down to the question, can you daily drive a C8 Corvette? The answer is yes, you absolutely could, and you would love every moment of it. But should you daily drive a C8 Corvette?
Yes, you should. It's woefully unreasonable. If you've ever driven a C8 Corvette, you will completely understand why. First of all, look at it. It is a absolutely beautiful design, and it's incredible to drive. And if that doesn't do it for you, listen to this. Here, listen. a V8 powered supercar, and yes, I said supercar. Argue about it in the comments if you'd really like to. Isn't meant to be daily driven, but that doesn't mean that you can't, and it certainly doesn't mean that you shouldn't. If you want to daily drive your C8 Corvette, then by all means do it. You'll have the time of your life. Thank you so much for tuning in to MotorBiscuit. My name is Braden. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video.